the pond, and so I guess it's rubbed off. So good, good on you for being here, and good morning, and an amazing morning to all of you, and welcome to the Freedom Coffee livestream, where we celebrate the freedoms that we have and that we fought to maintain, and we work on expanding those freedoms in the future by sharing different ideas and talk about the reality of what's going on within not just our political structure, but life in general, and how to prevent the slide into the dystopian nightmare that we were headed down leading into the Freedom Convoy. Good morning, Jesse. It's good to see you. I'm just waiting for everything to catch up, because with the streaming software, everybody's 30 seconds behind. You're not on locals, but everybody on all the other platforms are. Good morning, Megan. It's good to see you too. And by the way, if you can, like, share, and subscribe this stream. I think some of what we discuss, as many of you have told me in the Discord, some of the insights that I can give you from behind the scenes, how things operate, I guess has been valuable to some of you, and I will continue to do so. And boy, do we have a doozy today. So we are going to continue on expanding those freedoms, as I said before. And how do we do that? We do that by all coming together, all gathering around, and focusing on positivity. Make sure we have our cup of coffee or tea, as the aforesaid friends that I had mentioned on locals who are in England, who tend to drink tea. At least my friends do. And we focus on on positive energy, because you can't work on improving the world and fixing some of the issues we're dealing with when we're constantly in a state of anxiety. Megan, just me, or is it buffering? I don't know, but why don't I try to free up some cache and some RAM and see if that helps things. Maybe this is what's buffering right now. I will do my best to fix it right now. Megan, let me know if it gets any better. Usually, I guess it's just running out of processing power, which I don't understand how, but it is what it is. So, by the way, welcome to Canada, where news seems to be illegal. All the news channels, everything has been shut down on Facebook. So I had been streaming with the guys at the National Telegraph. We're trying to figure out a solution right now. Their page has been banned by Facebook, as well as the CBC. So, you got to take the good with the bad sort of thing, right? But anyways, we'll see how things transpire. My guess is that's not going to go on for very long. Google has removed entirely its news tab from Canada. So if you're in Canada, you can't go to Google for news. And they'll try to blame the tech companies, but the blame is Prime Minister Blackface is where the origins of all these problems come from, with Bill C-18, which I think we're going to be discussing today at 1 o'clock over Twitter in Political Bitcoin Hour. Myself and Brandon Gentili do this weekly Twitter space, and we'll discuss a little bit of C-18. I'm looking for somebody to come in who is kind of an expert on that. I've asked a couple of people. We'll see if they can join us, but we'll talk more about that. Trying Rumble, but that's buffering as well. Just a black screen. Hold on. Let me go over to Rumble, and we'll start doing here. Let me see. Rumble, and let's see my content. I'm doing this just for you, Megan. I don't want it to be here. Let's. Says they'll try to blame the. Why is it just a black screen? That's a good question. Let's see. Let me just see the. How about this? Let's see if this is better. Tell me if I blank out and you can't see me at any time. In the comments, let me know, because I'm gonna try to. That seems to be better now. All right, perfect. Hey, solved a technical issue on the fly. What do you got to give me some credit.
As well, just to
That's
be.
happened before.
Here, let's
shut that down.
says that you're trying to gain. Why is it just a bloody?
Oops! Now, everybody's making noise. All right, let's get into. Let's forget the technical stuff. Let's hope it's going to work out, and we'll go from there. Rumble also, I think, carbon copies the streams on YouTube is kind of a backup in case there's technical issues. So we'll see. We'll see how that transpires. And also I can see, why are the microphone levels way up? All right, I'm going to fix that right now. And then we're now for the better part of 9, maybe 10 months now at this point. It's run by Greg Staley. Greg is, how do you describe him? Blue collar, social conservative, interest. Well, I think he'll like that. I don't like to give people labels, but living in Saskatchewan, working class, got a family and people to support, and he just believes in the truth, whether we like the truth or not. And he's not a believer in peddling lies. So he had done a deep dive after we had done an interview. So I think it was, I guess, whenever he started, or maybe he started a little bit before, we did an interview together after the POEC. He reached out. Was it after the POEC? Yeah, I think it was after the POEC. He reached out to me for an interview. So I did an interview with him, and he seemed to had already been going down the rabbit hole and doing some digging. And I guess as a result of my interview, that really, I think that really persuaded him to keep going down the rabbit hole of digging down to find out what's going on. He's done interviews with many people, Brian Peckford, and I know he had Tamara Leach on the phone, and many email communications back and forth with people as he's been assembling all of this. And he's going to be packaging it into a documentary, which I think he said is going to come out after Labor Day. I'm not entirely sure. Last I heard, his working title is The Politics at the Protest. And he's been working very hard. Jesse says Greg is real. Yeah, I think he's the real deal, and he's not looking to have any bias towards any individual. He's just looking for the truth and the facts, and that seems to be what he's dealing with. And I know he also, I don't know if they've communicated or they've shared information. War Campaign, which is a YouTube channel for those of you who don't know, they have cited some of his work as well. And tell me that it didn't do the proper YouTube stream. I bet you it didn't go to the right YouTube stream. Oh well, I will fix all of this after. Sorry everybody on YouTube, but when I opened up, the technical woes, right? So he went down the rabbit hole, and he's packaging this into this into this documentary to be released, and he's communicated with other people as well who have taken an interest in his work. So it should be really interesting to see what we get out of that documentary. I'm excited to see it. Tangentially related to that, we have a Substack that I released yesterday, bjdictor.substack.com. I encourage all of you to, if you can, go take a read. It's quite dense because there's a lot of, shall we call it, supporting evidence, videos, tags in it that really will back up and affirm everything I'm trying to communicate in that Substack. And it's called Honking for Freedom, Hope for the Future, Part 2. So for those of you who know, there was a Part 1 that I'd done a while back, and this is kind of an expansion on that and getting into a little bit of the nitty-gritty and the details of what myself and several other people have been dealing with since the convoy. Do we want to call it a co-opt or a sabotage or whatever you want to talk about it, right? Jesse, you see me on YouTube, fine. Okay, great. I'm worried that it's set to the wrong. Anyways, it's a long story. I'll clean it up after and I'll fix it. I'm pretty sure you're right on the YouTube stream. All right, great. So, Honking for Freedom, Hope for the Future, Part 2. And I'll walk through some of the details in a broad sense of what was covered there. This is important for all of you who've supported the Freedom Convoy, and more importantly, have been donating to initiatives since that, and have been listening to some of the, how do you call it, the toxic rhetoric, and I guess the covering for the political class, because you notice you're never hearing from political convoy, as I describe it. Have you heard any of them criticize Doug Ford or Tim Houston or Jason Kenney or any other conservatives who were right in line with the Trudeau mandates throughout those couple of years of COVID? So you're never going to hear any of them speak out about that. Isn't that interesting? Don't you think that's a curious development, that they're not talking about anybody on the conservative side? It's just everything is 100% focused on Justin Trudeau, and I get that. Listen, Trudeau is a maniac. He should be nowhere near power in Canada. But if we're going to fix this system, we have to be honest, and we have to call out everybody who contributed to all the COVID lockdowns and the measures and just decided, authoritarianism, yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Like, it's quite disappointing that nobody on the tour, I guess you call it, will have the balls to speak out about people on the conservative side who are just as bad as Trudeau, and in some cases maybe worse. I don't know. So, for those of you who haven't read it, I walk through a number of things in the Substack. I start with a video from Julian. Julian is a YouTuber and Bitcoiner from out west. He's from British Columbia, and he flew all the way to Toronto to hop in the truck with me and go on a couple of deliveries. And it was really quite good. It was a lot of fun, and he got to see what life is really like as a trucker. And we had some great conversations, some insights. We had talked about some of the things that I had outlined in the Substack that I'm getting to now. So I explained that in the Substack. I talk about an organization called Taking Back Our Freedoms, or TBOF. Now, a lot of the research around TBOF is going to come out of Greg Staley. He's been doing a deep dive into it, so he knows actually more than I do. I was just trying to deal with these maniacs in Ottawa that seem to not have the best interest at heart with regards to the Freedom Convoy, so much so that, ironically, even Tamara had mentioned that they were making her crazy. I remember there was one time she was in my hotel room, one of the many times she was there, and she said, she turned to somebody in the hallway, I can't remember what it was, and she said, you know what, if James Peloso doesn't stop, you know what, I'm just going to go home. Tell him if he doesn't stop, I'm going home. I'm tired of this. I want to leave. And I heard that a few times throughout the thing, and so that's that organization, TBOF. You can go to their website, tbof.ca, and it's very interesting because it has a lot of very influential, in political circles, very influential conservatives who are a part of it. The chair is, or was, at least when it was launched, which was around the time of the convoy where this thing came out of nowhere. It was created by Brian Peckford, and their lawyer was Keith Wilson. And on the advisory board were a whole bunch of people, including Danny Balford and Maxime Bernier. So it's really interesting to see this shadowy organization, you want to call it, because nobody knows what it is, but organization of all these really high-level conservative political figures, and Maxime Bernier and a bunch of other people there. Like, I think Derek Sloan was there at some point as well. I could be wrong about that, but so much information has gone throughout this entire ordeal. that it's difficult to keep track of who's what group and how many of those groups are interlinked and which group is controlling everything and all that sort of stuff. I shared the video, which came from Diverge Media, of Keith Wilson describing the people on the stand during the POEC when the Government of Canada lawyer was trying to infer that the people at the Freedom Convoy were a little bit, had a screw loose. And he described, he cherry-picked some organization, some Wiccan organization. Apparently the exception becomes the rule of the Freedom Convoy. Those are the people that Keith Wilson used to smear the Freedom Convoy, and when he was asked, did it attract a lot of, I can't remember the word that the lawyer used, but did it attract a lot of undesirable types, I guess he said something like that. And Keith Wilson confidently, like moths to a flame. I think we now know why he said before the commission that we know the result is going to be, it's just political and it's going to be in favor of Trudeau. Well, yeah, if you're on the stand describing us as a bunch of lunatics, then if the lawyer of the Freedom Convoy is describing the Freedom Convoy as lunatics, that might actually influence the judge's ruling, don't you think? What an a-hole. Anyways, I also expand upon and shared the video of my interview on Rebel News with Jim Kalaharios, where we showed that he clearly, was an intentional deception or he was just confused when he inferred that, BJ has the Bitcoin, which is really odd because the person who received the Bitcoin to submit to the escrow agent was a guy by the name of Keith Wilson. So it's his own file. It's so funny. Then I went on to expand on Ezra's tweet. That's the reason that that was, I guess, the catalyst that that so many people started smearing me was because of Ezra's tweets, which when I posted on Twitter that after speaking with the road captains who decided, okay, it's time to leave. So I posted on Twitter that we're all going to, everybody's slowly starting to move out. That was a communication to the police for them to kind of back off. And Ezra Levant retweeted it, Mr. Journalist. It looks like you ran away, mate. Yeah, what a fucking asshole. And then I follow up with the video from Keith Wilson and Viva Fry, where Keith Wilson explains that he encouraged me to leave, which is interesting that Ezra's apparently high school friend, I thought it was university, but apparently Ezra's high school friend was my lawyer on the inside and was bugging me for 20 minutes to leave, and I didn't want to leave. He's like, no, you have to leave, you have to leave, you have to leave. And okay, fine. I guess I took the bait and trusted him. Or it was good legal advice. I don't really know. With these people, it's really, you never know. You never know their intention, who's a snake and who's not. But I took Keith Wilson's advice and I left. And a few minutes later, Ezra posts, it looks like you ran. I wonder if that was coordinated. Wasn't it, right? Yeah, fucking dirtbags. Anyways, picture of the Rebel News interview that I did with Tamara on January 30th, which I was hoping would front run the legacy media, because it was an hour-long interview. It was all about the mandate of the Freedom Convoy, that we were there to end mandates and Arrive Can, and it was an hour-long interview with me, Tamara, Alexa, Mocha, and Lincoln were in the room. So I took a picture just before we started, just to make sure there was no funny business. And Ezra, for whatever reason, buried the biggest news story on the planet in the exclusive interview with myself and Tamara. I wonder why he did that. I wonder why. I think we're going to find out over time. Then I talk a little bit about Diverge Media and encourage all of you to contribute and donate to Diverge Media. I have no legal, financial, any sort of relationship with Greg and Diverge Media, other than he's asked me for information like he's asked everybody else, and I've given it to him. and I trust the fact he's trying to get to the truth, which is why I'm just so open. Whatever he wants, I have nothing to hide. I just tell the truth, and he'll put it together. Jesse, Ezra has friends. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, people in politics are like that. None of them have friends. They're very lonely people. They're all also very miserable. And it's not just people on the left in politics. It's people across the board. You know, there are exceptions. There is a few really good people in politics, and I don't want them to be smeared with a brush. People who actually are trying to make a difference and are as frustrated as you and I. But anyways, and then I also include the interview that this is in the Substack. The link is there. That's why it's a long thing to go through all the information put all together. Of my interview with Jim Karahelios and Sheila Gunn-Reid, which came 10 months after them propping up the Marazzo-Wilson political convoy lie and tried to infuse all of you with narrative poisoning and to buy into this lie. So I included that interview. It's an hour long. It's a very interesting interview. You know, when people are, what about all the smears, we address them directly and head on, so there's no ambiguity and everything is directly answered. And as Jim said many times, we're not being held up to any scrutiny because it's a matter of public record. It's on the public record in the court proceeding. Everybody can go and look on their own. That's why it's called a public record. Anyways, that and a little bit more. So I encourage all of you to check out the Substack from yesterday, Honking for Freedom, Hope for the Future, Part 2. And the Substack address is bjdictor.substack.com. And that leads me into a question. Jesse, what are you asking? Do you think if the convoy had been a quarter the size of Trudeau, would have done things differently? No, it wouldn't have been nearly as impactful either. I think there was a lot of coordination behind the scenes that we are still unaware of, that it wasn't just Trudeau trying to put together the EMA. When they keep saying, oh, we knew about the EMA. No, we didn't know. We were shocked, like everybody else was shocked that he would do that, except for the people in political convoy. And it's almost like the political convoy people had communicated to the other side of the government saying, well, this is never going to end, so you have to do something like the EMA, just invoke it, and that's the only way to get rid of it. And you know that has a benefit to them as well. Ends up making Trudeau look like a dummy. So maybe Trudeau took the bait from people in political convoy. I don't know, but there's clearly something going on, and it was very interesting to see the communications between Candice Bergen, leader of the Conservative Party, and Justin Trudeau, where it becomes redacted. When they say we need to talk about, they're talking about the truckers in general, we need to end this, together they need to end it. And then all of a sudden everything's redacted. I wonder why. I wonder why that's redacted. Who knew? But anyways, things are going to get fun. And all of this leads me to a question that's come up. It came up in Legacy Media yesterday. It's also come up a little bit in our Twitter political Bitcoin spaces, and we discussed it here and in the Discord as well. And that's this question. What is the deep state? Because you hear that term all the time. I don't particularly like that term. It turns people off. It makes people think it's, Alex Jones and that sort of stuff. But I mean, we got to discuss it because it comes up so often. And I find what's really frustrating, I talked about this in a space last week, is people always attribute the deep state to the three-letter organizations, in particular in the United States, right? The CIA and FBI. It's so frustrating for some people have such a simplistic view of the world and such a simplistic understanding of how it works. Pat King, when he came back on Facebook, says, I know everybody's watching me. I know it's you and the CIA and the FBI. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's a foreign country. No, nobody in the CIA is watching you. You're not an American. This is a foreign country. But I'm sympathetic because I understand, he may not understand the complexities, but he feels as though there's something within a government, institution, organization, whatever it is, that's watching. And that may or may not be the case. I have no idea. I don't know him. I've never spoken to him. But I don't particularly like this term deep state. It's too vague. It's become emotionally charged for a number of people, and people misattribute it to three-letter organizations. So, okay, so then what is it? Well, let's first look at what is defining it. And I may not even have an answer for this, but let's take away this whole CIA, FBI, because we're all, propagandized by Hollywood, so we look at everything from an American perspective. Throw that off to the side and park it for now. What we do have is we do have a bureaucracy, we do have a political class, and we have a co-opted media. Would we all agree? Would you all agree that the media is unreliable, that the media has interests beyond telling people the truth about what goes on around political issues or things, just news in general, Oh my God, the planet is melting. It's 18 degrees in England. Oh wow, oh my God, 18 degrees. Sounds a little cold to me, to be entirely honest. I like it when it's 40 degrees myself, Celsius for my friends in the United States. But those three things, the bureaucracy, the political class, and the media, is it fair to say that those are the entities that have been, I don't want to say together, because I think they operate independently, and sometimes there's that Venn diagram sometimes crosses over depending on the issues. But is it fair to say that the bureaucracy, the political class, and the media is where broadly much of the propaganda that is often inaccurate comes from? Is that not fair? And when I say media, I might include companies like tech companies like Facebook and Google, that I might include that as part of this whole media apparatus, because they're very much in line with a legacy media narrative on the world, right? I don't know. And it's really interesting. If you look at the Substack that I wrote, look through it again and think, who are the entities around the Freedom Convoy that either defamed it, made it look bad, lied about it, conspired behind the scenes about it? What are those entities? Well, I take you back to this organization, TBOF, with significantly influential people from the conservative side, George Bears, Brian Peckford, Maxime Bernier, and these are political operatives on the highest level. And what's interesting is they shouldn't even be working together if we have two different parties. If we have a conservative and a PPC party, how are they working together for this organization that seemed to be operating as a political operative in Ottawa, or part of the deep state, right? Again, I'm using that, I'm being intentionally hyperbolic right now. I'm not saying specifically that, right? But if you take the bureaucracy and the political class and the media filter, and you look at everything that had gone on during the Freedom Convoy, while many of us, the truckers, myself, many other people were trying to keep it together and trying to keep it peaceful, and they were making our lives miserable, trying to conspire with different levels, well, not different levels of government, but local officials, and trying to condense the protest to make it, to work with the police to, I don't know what they were doing, but there was something going on. I mean, we had a great relationship with the police because the police and the city of Ottawa told us where to park the trucks. They told us. Then all of a sudden, a bunch of political people come in and say, no, you got to move all the trucks. No, you don't have to move all the trucks. So I was shocked with on February 6th, Chris Barber, he's late to come to stage on the Sunday, and I asked him, why are you late? And he said to me, well, I had to move my truck. I'm like, what do you mean you have to move your truck? So I was blocking an old lady. That wasn't true. So what did he know that I didn't know, right? I've been trying to ask that guy for over the better part of a year. How is he related to Premier Brad Wall? Remember, bureaucracy, political class, and the media. How is he related to Premier Brad Wall? And what were they talking about in their 30 conversations during the convoy? I think we should know, right? Why can't you answer the most simple question ever? Oh, he has a distant relative, and he was just kind of reaching out and was concerned or whatever. I don't know. Why is that so hard? Why is that so difficult? I don't really get it. And I think also what we need to look at when we talk about this framing of deep state, and again, I don't like that term because I don't know that it's accurate, and it's charged with a lot of things that are inaccurate. But the bureaucracy, the political class, and the media. Do you think it's just on the left side? Because I know that's often attributed in the United States to Biden and in Canada to Trudeau. Do you think it only operates on the left side of politics? Because agencies who've done some pretty bad things around the world. My point is, they're not the catalyst for the decisions. The catalyst for the decisions comes higher. It comes from the political class, and they always use the three-letter agencies as a veil. And I'm saying, don't take the bait. Go after the people within the bureaucracy and the political class. And there is an argument to be made that the bureaucracy is even more dangerous, right? Jesse, I don't know what to tell you, dear. Hopefully it'll self-correct. And I think I've closed as many applications as possible. Here, let me close one. There's one more that was open. And this one doesn't even take any bandwidth. But let's see if this helps as well. Hopefully that helps. All right. The police had been contacted prior to the arrival. This is the Freedom Convoy. Plans were made to not park on the hill when trucks got there. They were redirected to the hill. Yeah, we had, they essentially gave a floor plan for the city where the trucks should park. Remember Diane Deans and the city council? They had that city council meeting saying, we welcome the truckers because Canada is a nation of free speech. What happened to that? Right? Maybe there was a bunch of things going on behind the scenes between the political class, the bureaucracy, and the media. Right? Ninety-one indictments against Trump for having opinions about the election, which are exactly the same opinions that, what's her name? I forget her name now. Hillary Clinton. The exact same opinions Hillary Clinton had in 2016. Opinions. So 91 indictments. And it was very funny to see there was a post today on CNN. I call it quote mining, but it's called, I can't remember who described it. A RUPAR, when you take a video, take any sort of VIX before, you delete the context after, and you just focus on one section of a statement that was nuanced. And that's called a RUPAR. So they did that with Trump when he said, apparently, get me more votes. Find me some votes, I think is what it was. And remember, take it from the position of somebody who's been the CEO chair of a variety of companies, or his companies, however you want to describe it. And what it does is it brainwashes people to believe he's saying steal votes. He didn't say me some votes. I don't say common sense. Anybody who's not suffering from confirmation bias, they have the, I hate Trump no matter what goggles on, and this is not an endorsement for or against, by the way, but anybody who's thinking clearly would see that what he's trying to say is, I know there's votes that are missing. Please find them because the election is so close. It's so close. I know they've been screwing with the election. Find me those votes that are missing because we know they're there. Or we know that the votes that have been tabulated are incorrect. That's what he's saying. But the CNN goes around and intentionally tries to brainwash people by editing video or the recording to make you think the opposite of what exactly was being said. Megan says she switched to local, seems much better. Okay, thanks, Megan. Awesome. See, there's a benefit to locals. Anyways, so he went on and he said in the past couple of days, he mentioned the deep state and he promises to crush it. Notice the parallels of what's going on with Trump in the United States and us around the Freedom Convoy. It's a little different because we're a group and there's people who've been picked off and co-opted and brought into this political convoy, which seems to have all the attributes of the deep state. They have the political class with them. I don't know the relation with bureaucracy, but there must be. Maybe, maybe not. And they also have alternative media that will promulgate the lie, which is what's been going on for a year. That's why it took 10 years of me calling out. I shouldn't say, I explained this in the Substack, that after my testimony, Sheila Gunn Reid started, attacking me like it wasn't pre-planned. And she said, oh, we'll have Ben on, because people asked, and she said, we'll have Ben on at any time. Just he can reach out to us and we'll have him on and we can get his side of the story. You mean the verifiable factual truth? So that's when I called my lawyer and I said, why don't we reach out to Sheila and see if she'll have us on? And to her credit, she did. And what did they do with it? Do you think they put it on the main Rebel News channel where 99% of their exposure is? Where they had been promulgating the lie of Hurt Locker Tom and having Keith Wilson on regularly and all that stuff? Do you think they put our interview on there? No, of course not. They put it on the Rebel News channel, which had just a few thousand people. And Sheila, who told me it'll be her weekly Wednesday program, I messaged her and I said, hey, Sheila, why didn't you include it on your weekly program? Some people have asked me. And the bullshit I got from her was, oh, well, we didn't want it to be behind a paywall. So, like my show is, so we just put it up on our free channel, not the main channel, did you? So they're as sneaky and as slimy as the CBC. They do all the same crap as the CBC. Probably might be even worse. Depends on how much kickbacks they're getting from the Conservative Party. But we'll talk about that and their business model at a future date. But those parallels of what you're seeing around, to a much smaller degree, around what's happening with Trump and our $450 million lawfare case against all of us. But you know who's not listed in the class action suit? TBOF, who was apparently was receiving email transfers or something, some of your donations. Brian Peckford, who's the chair of TBOF, Maxime Bernier, all these other people, none of them have been listed in the class action suit. Why is that? Right? If they were there on the ground, as Tamara said, tell James Peloso from TBOF, if he doesn't leave me alone, if he doesn't stop, I'm going to go home. Well, that seems to suggest that she believed they had some influence. Well, if they had some influence and they were collecting money, why aren't they listed in the class action suit? What's going on? Bureaucracy, political class, and the media. That is what people are trying, or that's what people don't understand is the real deep state, right? It's not that there's an agent hiding behind a tree in front of your house recording. That's the movies. That's not how life really works. Life is really messy, really complicated, and very bureaucratic, right? So the parallels between the two are astounding, what is going on there and what has gone on with us, and not only during but since. That's what all the smear campaigns are. Look at the parallels of the smear campaigns against Trump and the smear campaigns against, I don't know, myself for the past year. In Trump's case, it's coming from the bureaucracy and the political class tied to mainly the left. In my case, it's coming from the bureaucracy and the political class on the right, because I have correctly called out, as I explained when we started the stream, that the Freedom Convoy was sabotaged or co-opted. Remember when I first started this? I started bringing that up and people thought I was crazy. No, it can't be. There's not possible. There's no way. Seems to be. Now you understand the motivations behind the bots and the few political actors trying to score points to get a job, constantly feeding a fake narrative around myself, and there's a few others too. It's not just me, right? I'm taking myself an example. But it's the exact same strategy in both cases. They're doing the exact same thing, right? And there's a lot of nuanced differences. I get that. But you know what I mean? Just overall, how the political class and the bureaucracy works, how they use public shaming and smear tactics, and they use alternative media, and they build fake narratives, call people names like 5-year-olds. That's what politics in the world has now devolved to, right? All right, everybody switched. Well, not everybody. A lot of you are still here. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think I'm on to something? What about the hero worship? We're seeing a lot of hero worship coming out of political convoy, right? To target all the hero worship in one direction. And in a couple of cases from people who were not around for like a week at a time, that we'd get one message at the end of the night. Oh, things were so busy. Oh, couldn't be here. Oh, couldn't be there. That's the hero worship, right? Is that the face of political convoy? The bureaucracy, the political class, and the media? The, quote, deep state? Makes you wonder why there's so many tours going on right now, right? You got to keep promulgating the lie and the propaganda, because the truth doesn't need to be repeated over and over again, as we've learned from Goebbels and of all people, Climate Barbie, right? If you repeat a lie, or if you repeat your talking point over and over again, people will begin with the help of the political class on the other side of the aisle. Foremost, Doug Ford, who was implementing the passports in Ontario, because he's a coward and he doesn't have the ability to say no. Everything has to be focus grouped, which is what's destroying our society right now. So because of that, I have agreed, and I said, okay, I will come to your conference. I will be respectful. I'm not going to, be aggressive or adversarial towards people who are traitors. Great. That's not for me. That's not my thing. If it works for them, fine. You do what you want with your money. But what's important for me is that they understand Bitcoin. And many of these people are young. They are very ambitious. Many of them are gamers. They know NFTs. They know liquidity pools. They know DeFi. They know ordinals now. So they know all of these different things that really have nothing to do with Bitcoin, but they don't understand the base layer of money. And if we're going to help people prepare for what may be very rocky economic times over the next couple of years, it's important that everybody understands the hedge against that being Bitcoin. And I'm going to do my best to try to reach those people and end some of the friction within the crypto Bitcoin space. It'll always be there, but I'm going to do my best to reduce it and try to bring as many people into Bitcoin as possible, much like I've brought some of you, one of you particularly last night, who sent me a message that she got her first hardware wallet. How does she use it, right? So I'm going to do my best to kind of try to bridge those gaps the same way I did my best in messaging around the Freedom Convoy, to bridge the gaps around messaging and bring people together. So, Jesse, I don't have locals. Well, the good news for you, Jesse, is firstly, don't ever be sorry. Jesse's apologizing. She had an emergency. Jesse, I love you. And the good thing is, when I finish the stream, it uploads and then carbon copies the different resolution versions of the video. So if you watch this in the future, it'll be completely seamless, and there won't be any disruptions at all. Off topic, but I'm curious about what was the small U.S. town you did the video from a while back. Oh, which one? It wasn't Elmira. Where was that? It's a place I've only been to once. I know my brother and a couple of the other truckers have been there a lot. Where it was in, I think it was on the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border, but I don't remember that it was no, it's not Jacksonville. It was Jackson something. Rings a bell. Or Jonestown? Not like the cult. But I think it was Johnstown? I'm not sure. I'll check it out for you, Megan, and I'll see if I can remember if I have anything in my notes. But anyways, thank you. Thank you for watching. I like small towns in the U.S., at least from the pictures. I got to tell you, one of the big gifts of getting into trucking and driving across the U.S. is familiarizing yourself with small town America. Like, there's certain towns I go to, like East Durham's a good example. East Durham, New York. I mean, I've been all over the U.S. and East Durham, New York is like being in rural Georgia. Like, it's really pretty, even better because there's more mountains. Small town, small communities, really nice, friendly people. Everybody says please, thank you, sir and ma'am. It's really gorgeous, and so that is one of the gifts you get when you get into a truck and you go to see all facets of America. You realize in states like New York, there's New York City, which is a completely different culture than the entire rest of the city, the rest of the state. Even if you go to Syracuse and or Albany, even, it's just so different than the rest of the state, and all of the U.S. is like that. I particularly like. I thought Providence is very nice. I've gone to Providence a bunch of times, and rural Massachusetts. Like, it's just gorgeous. It really is. I was going to say don't drink the Kool-Aid. Oh my God. Jesse, I love you. You are adorable. And please, if you can, like, share, and subscribe this when I fix the links and get everything sorted. Because clearly something happened with the encoder when I launched. But please share it, and that's the only way we'll get the truth out. And also keep an eye out for Diverge Media, divergemedia.ca. Do not hesitate to give a small contribution to Greg for all the time and sweat he's put into it. Again, I have no legal or financial or any sort of affiliation whatsoever, other than he's asked me to be a source of information. I have. He seems to be confident that he's verified what I've told him, and great. We'll see, I guess. We'll find out when he releases his documentary Politics at the Protest, which is set to come sometime after Labor Day. Okay, I got to run because in an hour I got a Twitter space, the Political Bitcoin Hour. For those of you who are into it, we're going to talk about some of these things, but go in much more of a different direction. We're probably going to focus a little bit on American politics, because many of the people who are there, they're usually American. And but please, by all means, join us, and it'll be a lot of fun. Otherwise, I will be back streaming soon, and thank you for all your love and support, and all the positivity, and all the encouragement, and all of you saying, don't worry, don't let all the nonsense get to you, whatever. I haven't, and it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I think it's funny. But thank you for all of you who've been supportive and kind, and I promise there's going to be much, much more.